when the comic book writers decided we're going to change Superman fundamentally, that is what ruined it for the fans. People did not like that. And that's what's going on right now when you see like people getting up in arms about all of their favorite series being changed. So it would be like Black Panther suddenly being played by, like, I don't know, an albino from Algeria. Like, you know, what? Defeated by delicious fruit pie. Welcome, everybody, to DBDFP. I am NEDTJ, Ned the Janitor, Eric Allen on Defeated by Delicious Fruit Pies, the only podcast that talks this much about being defeated and delicious fruit pies. So thank you all for being here this week. I have had a lot of comments and a lot of really interesting conversations with all of you in the last week. And it's been kind of a driving point that's been coming up. And I've noticed that I've touched on some of the stuff over the last 3 or 4 episodes. So this is where it kind of comes to a head. And I don't like to rant and rave on this channel. I love ranting in real life. And if you ever were at a Comic-Con or something with me, or at any convention, in fact, like I was just at last week with me, you would know that I love to rant, especially when I see things that are just not okay with what I find to be philosophically or morally or just, you know, traditionally okay. So that's what this episode is going to be about. You saw on the thumbnail, it's Remakes Ruin Everything, and I'm defending the nerdverse, or the nerddom, the kingdom of nerds. And what do I mean by a nerd? I went over this a little bit last week, and I want to just kind of reiterate this. This is probably going to be a running theme as we talk about these episodes and what Defeated by Delicious Fruit Pies is, because we are, I think, unique to a lot of other channels like this. So we're not the angry video game nerd. We're not RGT85. We're not the quartering, although I watch all of them. We're not Red Letter Media, because it's not just about movies and TV shows, although you gotta watch the best of the worst from Red Letter Media. It's hysterical. It's not just movies, it's like training videos and other things that they do, and it's really amazing. We're not like How Ridiculous, where we have a giant tower that we can drop a bunch of stuff off of. I dropped him once. He broke. It wasn't exciting. I was very upset. So we didn't go that direction as a channel. Also, it wasn't on purpose, and it wasn't from that far up. And I have no sand, and I'm not in Australia where everything is trying to kill you. Speaking of things that are trying to kill you, though, I want to talk about the mug/shirt of the week. The mug of the week is an oldie but a goodie. It is Cthulhu. This is a mug that Chris got for me one fateful Christmas, and the world ended as the Elder Gods took their rightful place as rulers of this verse. I love this mug, and I always let him know whenever I'm drinking that. I'm drinking coffee from that when we're playing online. I'll be like, "Yo, I'm drinking from Cthulhu," so he knows. But also, the shirt of the week is Cthulu. This is like a fun shirt that I got from like Hot Topic. Yes, I got something from Hot Topic. From Hot Topic. It was fun. I like to get a lot of really random shirts from places, and Hot Topic, oddly/sadly, is one of the only places that has a lot of t-shirts, like a ton of t-shirts from different areas of the nerdverse, so that I can go in and look at them. There are a couple of comic book stores and GameStops that you can also get a lot of that kind of stuff, but this is where I've been getting it. But Cthulhu is a great theme for this week, because it really is about the Elder Gods rising and about things ruining the world. And so from that, you know, I talk about H.P. Lovecraft when I talk about Cthulhu, because obviously H.P. Lovecraft was the inventor of Call of Cthulhu and that whole universe, that H.P. Lovecraftian, you hear people say Lovecraftian universe. If you don't, I don't know why you're even watching this. He was an inspirational writer. H.P. Lovecraft is still, to this day, one of my favorite authors. He wrote a ton of really great nerdy stuff about like terror and like just real fear killing you, and what it means to be a phantasm and to see something so fantastic that it just like shakes you to the bone. He had really great stories about that. But Cthulhu is what people really focus on. I mean, like, people love the tentacle-headed monstrosity that was out of the ocean and that had worshippers, and that basically was of a time before time, and that would come and end everything if he was ever awakened. And there's been a lot of really great video games, board games, movies, series, a lot of nods and references to Cthulhu. At the same time, that's a really specific thing to know about, right? Like how many people who are watching this, and you can write in the comment section if you do, but my assumption is a lot of you don't actually read or have read H.P. Lovecraft. Like really have gone back and read the original source material. Most people have not. So there are people who enjoy the take on Cthulhu, the reference material to Cthulhu, Arkham Horror, Arkham the City, Batman, like the things that took the name Arkham Asylum, that comes from H.P. Lovecraft. That, what do you thought, that DC invented the term Arkham? Okay. Don't give them too much credit there. Although they are ahead of the game right now on the zombie series, but I mean, that's, again, rehash and remake, and we'll get into why that's terrible. But, so, H.P. Lovecraft is something of a household theme, even though nobody really has read H.P. Lovecraft. And I think that's the contrast that I want to put up here, just to preface this whole quasi-rant this week. Because what I'm going to be talking about is how remakes and reinventions of nostalgic material is an affront to true fans. And I don't mean that in terms of like fans like, oh, well, we really know way more than you do, so we're the real fans. But like people who really love something, and then you purport to recreate something to refresh it and make it fun and new and loyal to the people who are loyal to that product, and then changing it completely, creating a new story and doing a lot of different things to it so that normies can really enjoy it. And that's the problem that I have. There's a difference between normies that love the concept of things that, you know, people who 20 years ago, 30 years ago really loved this material back when you got picked on for loving it, be that Ninja Turtles or Star Wars or Mega Man or whatever, that there was a love for those pieces of art. Because it really is art. It's a culture, it's an art, it's a whatever. There are people who really love these things. And then there are money-grubbing, awful people and companies that have no soul that want to take that property, milk fans because the property exists and they know they're going to have those people go in and watch it or enjoy it or whatever. And then they want to appeal, though, to a new audience, creating a new story for different people. But they didn't want to go through all the time and effort of marketing a new icon, a new brand, a new logo. So they just went ahead and stole nostalgic items so that they could propagate that and get a lot more people watching it without taking as much of a hit financially if it turned out to be awful. So you've got your normies, you got your people who kind of, yeah, I know what Ninja Turtles are, I've heard of it. I never watched the original Ghostbusters, but I know what it is. You know, like, yeah, I get what Mega Man is. I saw that shirt that some guy had, and I know what a Nintendo is, even though I never really got to play that. And then you have the people who really love it, really do love Mega Man, really love the old Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, really loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in all of its awfulness, really love these series, and then come back and find them ruined. Because what I've been seeing lately is a lot of really bad press and a lot of really stupid videos and stupid takes from stupid companies. And again, these are companies that I read their articles, I watch their videos, you know, Kotaku, PC Gamer. I mean, there are a lot of places that we get our information from that are understandably bad. We just know they're bad. We know that they're money grubbing. They're not really informed in a lot of ways about what the fandom actually wants, but they know for sure what their corporate sponsorship wants. And they're really good at selling and shilling those things for those people. So I am not, this is, just to be clear, this is not a political thing that I'm going to be talking about, and it's a huge disclaimer I need to put out there right in the beginning. This is about real nerds, and I'm pulling this from last episode, so watch 158 if you don't know what I'm talking about. Because why not? Of course, watch 158. I have like 7,000 of you have watched it. Almost, that's like the second most viewed video of this channel is last week's Don't Be Too Jaded and explaining what a nerd is. So I welcome all of you new nerds who are watching Defeated by Delicious Fruit Pies. Understand what I'm saying. I am not saying that there's anything wrong with fresh material, new franchises, new stories, new characters, Any of that stuff. I love all of those things. And I'll give some examples of that later on of what I like. But for the most part, what this is going to be about is I want to clarify what the argument is from my perspective, at least. Online right now, the battle on Twitter, the battle on YouTube, the battle on Facebook, the battle on television even, I want to really clarify what our position is as lovers of nostalgic franchises when you come in and ruin them. And I do mean you're ruining them, producers of remakes. And I'm going to talk about everything from Ninja Turtles to The Lion King. It all matters, and it's all the same stuff, and it's all for the same reason. So that I just wanted to preface all of that. This is philosophical. This, I think, is psychological. What I'm really focusing in on is why you're able, and I say this you, but like why Vice and why Kotaku and why PC Gamer and why all these people on Twitter are able to complain about these toxic people that are crying about this series being changed, this movie being made, this new lead, why this is really an issue and why what you're saying is the issue is totally disingenuous. So I'll start with Ninja Turtles because I hated the new Ninja Turtles movies. Like, hated them. The Michael Bay movies were awful. And I think that this is completely non-political, right? Because this is not because they added in somebody that's diverse in background to the characters. This is not because a female is playing now what was previously a male character. The reason why fans of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series hated the new movies, and I'm not alone, is because they basically let Michael Bay create a Transformers movie with these green freaks in it that they called the Ninja Turtles. They were not the Ninja Turtles. They did not act like the Ninja Turtles. They all were really freakishly different looking than the original Ninja Turtles, which is saying something considered they're mutated turtle people. That's what's going on here. You created something that was an original concept, and I talked about this last week. Like, imagine the drug the person was on that invented this idea of like, man, I'm gonna get this like toxic goo, and I'm gonna get these turtles to crawl in it, and they're gonna turn into these people like turtles with special powers, and then this like martial arts trainer is gonna touch this stuff, and there's gonna be rats, and somehow he turns into a rat martial artist. Trains those turtles, and then they fight an evil clandestine foot soldier clan called the Foot against a guy who has a lot of blades on him named Shredder, who's being directed by a brain in a machine from a dimension that we'll just call X, in a technologically built dome called the Technodrome, and that's going to be our series. Like, obviously drugs, right? Like, that, I agree, like, fine, it's psycho, it's crazy, but we loved it, and it was stupid. It was really stupid. But it had some things that when I go back and watch it, I was just looking online last week while I was in Orlando. I was looking around for arcade machines, and one of the arcade machines that I was looking for was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game. Not the Turtles in Time one, although that was fantastic. But Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade, was a really difficult arcade game, but the arcade itself is a 4-player joystick-based arcade. And to have the crew come together and play on that arcade, to me, was worth like over $1,000. I was really looking hard to find this. I put a bid on something, never heard back. If you're watching this and you're that arcade company, get back to me. I'll make something happen. Maybe I can advertise your arcades. I've got thousands of viewers, and we're almost up to 1,400 subscribers. If one person bought another arcade, you'll make your money back from the insultingly low bid I put on your arcade machine. I really, really love that game. But the series, when I go back and play the game, I watch the series, I watch old cartoons, I look at old references from like Baxter Stockman. It's awesome. That brings me back, you know, and I had a comment from somebody who watched one of my previous videos saying something about like, oh, well, you know, now that I'm an adult, like I need to leave childish things behind. That to me, all that says to me, dude, is that you are a poser of an adult. You're an immature, childlike, insecure individual who probably has no real responsibilities. You probably don't work a real job. You have no purpose in life. You have no career. And so you fancy yourself an adult because you scoff at things that you used to love. So you're just a jaded, sad adolescent. And that's most people who are watching the Marvel movies, who are watching the remake of the Turtles movie. Maybe you even have kids, but maybe you just never grew up. And so you think it's cool to make fun of people who loved things that were innocent and playful and fun and goofy and didn't have anything to do with the actual difficult responsibilities you have in life. And I don't know about you guys, but if you're watching this and you're like me, you're one of the people who has businesses, not just one, but multiple businesses you run on your own. You have people in your life you take care of. You have people who literally require you to work and they rely on you to be a homeowner so that they can live their lives out. You've shoveled snow at 5 in the morning to make sure people can get to work. You've gone out and worked at 9 o'clock at night at 84-degree temperatures to make sure that things were done the way they needed to be done. You've gone the extra mile because you needed to. You work all the time because that's life and that's being an adult. If you're like me, you appreciate more than ever that video game that reminds you of when you were a kid. The remake of Resident Evil 2. That episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the pizza monsters. Like these stupid nonsense things that can just make you smile on a day where you worked 16 hours and you're exhausted and maybe you didn't feel like working out afterward, but you did anyway because you got to keep your health up. And then by the way, you're going to be up at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow because you have to go to a meeting. Maybe that is why you latch on to the things that are nostalgic in life. And if you're like that and you agree with me, this video really is dedicated to you. We've got to stop destroying the things that are nostalgic in order to push mediocre ideas in movies, television, and video games so that we can sell them without marketing as much or working harder to create a new and impressive IP. That's my point. And I think that I'll get dislikes from people who disagree with that, probably people who are immature, probably people who don't have anything else going on, maybe a lot of the teenagers for some reason. A lot of you are from England and watch my stuff and you're like, what, 12 and 14, which, you know, that's great. Go back and watch this video in 10 years though, when you're 24 and you actually have a job, you'll agree too. So like, I'll take your dislike and I ask you in 10 years to go back and watch it and change that to a thumbs up if you agree with me. But I'll get comments and I'll get likes from people who understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go through a list briefly of the properties that are doing this, and then I'll be making my case for what I'm talking about, and hopefully you'll understand and we'll be on the same page, and then this won't seem like some political thing and I'm just some like ranting chauvinistic jerk who's like talking about how, you know, people can't get a chance to do things in these universes. And, you know, then I'll talk about the solutions and what I think are the awesome, fantastical parts of this that people are doing, the good work that people are doing and making new intellectual property that I love. So we started with Ninja Turtles, right? Ninja Turtles was awful. Spider-Man 3, hello, the Spider-Man 3 zone. We created the Spider-Man 3 zone years ago. It was one of the first things we did because Spider-Man 3 betrayed the Spider-Man series. Sam Raimi, who I love, I will always have love in my heart for this man. He created Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness, of which I have 3 copies of the VHS with the shell casing that has the different artwork on each one because I wanted it that badly. I watched, what was that new movie that he created? It was, I mean, not new now, it was probably like 2014 or 2012 even, but it was something like Damn You to Hell or something. It was a new horror movie, which had jump scares, whatever, but it was a cool idea, and I wanted to give him a chance, and it was like right around the Spider-Man time. But Sam, first of all, Bruce Campbell cannot fix every one of your movies. I know that he was in Spider-Man 1 and 2 and 3, and in 1 and 2, you did a great job, and you gave him work. And Kurt actually met Bruce at one of his book. He wrote that book about his chin, and so Kurt went and saw him. Bruce, what's going on? I would love to interview you on the show, man. But Bruce did a great job in all of the movies you put him in. All of them, from the beginning up until recently. And Bruce Campbell, he's a champion. He just does things. His Ash versus the Evil Dead, it was a great show even, and I think it got canceled, but not because of him. It was because people are dumb. That was a great show, by the way, that like really added to the source material. But I digress. What you did with Spider-Man 3, Sam, who's obviously not watching this, Sam Raimi jumped the shark on a couple things. First, they gave Peter Parker this emo haircut. at a time where emo was like the thing. You know, you had like all these bands coming out that were all like screamo and emo. That was like a big thing. So you wanted him to look like that. You played some really, really bad song and had him dance on chairs with like black hair dye or whatever on his like bang, not bangs, just one bang that he had over his head. And you made him like this weird, depressed dude. Like the one thing about Peter Parker from the comics was despite all of these depressing things that were going on, he always had a good attitude. He was always kind of like sarcastic, but in a nice, uppy way. He always had a lot of energy. He was very peppy because he was a child, you know, and even when he was kind of an adult, he was this like nerdy, peppy kid. That you ruined that. You ruined the source material. Not only that, but you tried to cash in on that 70s show by having Venom be played by a character from that 70s show, which everybody agrees was horrible. Not that the new Venom was any good, because it wasn't. Rip to the Venom IP. But that was horrible. And it was funny. I mean, people were literally laughing out loud in the theater when it showed that kid's face and then Venom. It was like, this is just the dumbest thing ever. And Venom shouldn't have made Peter Parker more depressed and emo. It should have made him more aggressive, which you showed in this like weird, like, kind of aggression that he had with Mary Jane. That was just stupid. Honestly, it was just stupid. People hated it because it ruined the source material. It was literally the same actor, who was, by the way, a fantastic actor. They had Tobey Maguire or whatever. He played Peter Parker very well in the first one. I even liked him in the second one. You wrote him poorly in the third one because you decided to betray the source material and cash out on pop culture. You wanted to reach more normies. You wanted to get more people out there who probably weren't nerds and weren't into the fandom. And that's what ruined that movie series. And that ended it. And then you created The Amazing Spider-Man. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It just came out recently, and that wasn't anything like The Amazing Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man was the best cartoon or the comic series for Spider-Man, and the cartoon was awesome. And then you ruined it with this movie, and I think there was even a second one that literally nobody watched. Just look online for clips if you don't know what I'm talking about, because I surely don't know where you'd find it, except for YouTube, maybe. They probably wouldn't even get taken down for copyright because nobody cares. But then they created the newer Spider-Man, which was built off the MCU, where it was very clearly Spider-Man. I mean, just, they didn't care. They were going to be to the T, to the comics, childlike Peter Parker, doing Spider-Man things, regaining his powers, understanding that whole thing, not hanging on to a single phrase. It was just perfect. It was just so amazing. Homecoming was so good. Spider-Man and Civil War was the right flavor to add some comedy into a otherwise very dark and serious scene. Very nice. Good job.
DBDFP double down.
Iterations recently. That was an awful idea. So then take The Little Mermaid. I've been watching that people are really freaking out over The Little Mermaid. Nah, not so much. People aren't freaking out about The Little Mermaid. Nobody cares, honestly. Unless you have red hair and you're a redhead and you feel discriminated against now because they're, you know, whitewashing, or what is it, blackwashing? I don't know what you would even call it, to get rid of the only redheaded princess until Brave. I mean, that took forever. Ariel was the only representation that you had for Irish people that you were allowed to be an Irish princess. Edward the Longshanks would have been thrilled, but I'm sure, you know, there were plenty of people from Irish descent that were not happy until they got their Ariel. But has nothing to do with why people are upset. At least in the nerdverse. Now, there, I'm sure, are stupid people that just have bad, malicious intentions, and they don't want things to change because we're not going to change my Ariel. Although I don't really know who those people are that are obsessed with The Little Mermaid who are saying dirk and derb. So I really think it's more this point. There are plenty of young women and probably a lot of guys who watched that original movie and liked it, just really liked it. You know, like I was a fan of the guy in the movie because, you know, his name was Eric. So, you know, not a bad gig for me that I was in a Disney movie. Although he really didn't look anything like me, which sucks. But he still was the prince in a Disney movie. And for me, watching all these Disney movies when I was a kid, there was nothing for me. I'd watch these movies that, like, I watched Lion King. I mean, I was around that time, Sleeping Beauty and like Cinderella and all these movies that really had a female protagonist. I never had a character I could relate to in a Disney movie until The Little Mermaid. And while I was a little older and I would make fun of this guy because he was a total clueless doof, it still at least was a guy that I could say, oh, it's Prince Eric, like, rock on. I never was him as Halloween. That's not ever going to happen. But people were getting upset, I think, more so that it was like, again, you're doing this again. And again, like with female Thor, why is that a problem? It's not. It's really not a problem because that's in the comics. There is a female Thor. What people were laughing about, and again, I just watched this video, both videos. I saw Jeremy from the Quartering. He was talking about it the first time where he said, this is funny. Let's laugh at the dumpster fire that is the Marvel universe, where they changed the entire thing into what he called wokeness, and then we're gonna watch the sales decline, the money's gonna go away, and that's funny. He wasn't even mad about it. Then there were all of these tweets about how he's angry and he's doing this and that. I consider Jeremy to be, in a lot of ways, a true nerd. He really is. He's kind of my age category, works really hard. He's got a wife, got kids. Not kids, but cats that are kids. I mean, he's got a lot of animals. And he's upset when he can't escape into the old universes that he used to, that he enjoyed. Totally resonates with a lot of nerds. Why are his videos on this getting over 200 and some thousand views? Because people resonate with the idea that these IPs are being ruined by changing fundamental aspects of the character. Here's why this really matters for comic books, though, and not for, maybe some, Ninja Turtles is a comic book that's called the Ninja Turtles. But The Little Mermaid is not called Ariel, the Irish princess, right? So, that really kind of doesn't matter. But Spider-Man is called Spider-Man. So the comic book, as you would expect, is about Spider-Man. Superman is about Superman. Isn't that weird? How the comic is called the name of the main character in the series? It's almost like the entire comic series hinges on that character. It's really weird. So when Superman died, and this is one of my favorite comic books. I have it. I've shown it before. The Death of Superman. I own it. It's one of my favorite. I know it's not the most valuable, but it's one of my favorite comic books that I've ever owned. The Death of Superman ended Superman being really canon, that canon Superman, the Man of Steel. And then what they did with him is that he got reincarnated into an energy being. And one of the things that happened to him is he got caught in a coil of an energy loop, like a Mobius strip kind of thing, and he was trapped. People hated that Superman. People hated that change to the point where they had to go back and reinvigorate Superman, make him corporeal again, and make him the Man of Steel instead of the Man of Electricity. So this is my point. It has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with politics. When the comic book writers decided we're going to change Superman fundamentally, that is what ruined it for the fans. People did not like that. And that's what's going on right now when you see people getting up in arms about all of their favorite series being changed. So it would be like Black Panther suddenly being played by I don't know, an albino from Algeria. What is, that's not the Black Panther anymore. He's not that character anymore. He's no longer clearly from that place. It would be like Krang not being from Dimension X. Now we're going to make him from Dimension Z. And he's not Krang anymore. He's Kong. He's actually King Kong. He's a monkey. He's not a brain anymore. So this is it's a real problem that we're having in, remakes and comic book series and things like that that's going on. So, and I'm going to talk in a minute about why that's an issue, but I just want to double check my internet connection because it's not showing that I'm streaming. You get one thunderstorm, and all of a sudden, nobody can see me. It's odd. I've never had anything like this happen where I'm not able to see myself on the live stream, except for when I start talking about this topic. Isn't that weird? My viewer count dropped in half, and all of a sudden, I can't see myself on live stream. That is really bizarre, don't you think? It's a conspiracy. I wish I had a tinfoil hat. Maybe I could put it on Dr. Ocelotopus. That'd be kind of funny. But we're going to roll with it. Hopefully this will fix itself. But yeah, so what is it that I think the solution is to this? Because there is a solution. There really is something that can be done. The first thing that can be done is create your own new products. Okay? Like just make your own new IP. How hard is that? Do you have to take a series, take a beloved cartoon, take a beloved movie and remake it and then change the story completely? Like take RoboCop, for example, okay? RoboCop is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. It's sarcastic in all the right ways. It's funny. It's really fun to watch. It has a lot of really great social commentary. And it was completely true to the comic books before it. Then you get the new RoboCop. It's a shell of itself. I mean, Michael Keaton is a fantastic villain. Don't get me wrong. I love Michael Keaton. But, you know, like, what were we doing here? Did we need this remake? It had the same Ed, it had the same RoboCop, it had all the same conflicts going on. Did we need RoboCop to be remade as just the same exact thing? No, we didn't. And it didn't serve any purpose, it didn't help anybody, it didn't really do a lot. But what it did was hurt the franchise and make people who were true fans of RoboCop mad. I mean, I got mad at how bad that movie was. Even though it's supposed to be a bad movie, it wasn't the right kind of bad. When you're the wrong kind of bad, like, we have issues. But then you get to the real solution, which is like Stranger Things. Now, Stranger Things plays off of nostalgia, plays off of a lot of products from the 80s, plays off of Dungeons and Dragons, as I've illustrated before with my D&D shirt, which I still love and I can't wait to have again on a future episode. But what it did was it created a unique story. It introduced unique characters. Did it play off of Ghostbusters? Absolutely it did. But did it do it in a unique way that had a cool new storyline that got me engrossed in what was going on? It absolutely, yes, it did. That was awesome. Stranger Things should be a benchmark. It should be a way that you can see that there is a way out of this. It doesn't all have to be completely uncreative crap where we're just remaking the same things over and over and over again. If I see another Charlie's Angel movie, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I mean, like, it would be like having another Ocean's movie or like another Dirty Rotten Scoundrels movie. Oh, wait, all of those things are being made soon. There's even a new zombie movie coming out, but the zombie movie has Bill Murray in it and like an amazing looking cast, and it's a new take on an old trope, which is zombie apocalypse. I'm totally going to watch it, probably more than once. It's probably going to be amazing because it's original enough. Zombies is a theme. You don't have to make Night of the Living Dead 2020 and ruin what George Romero created. You just don't have to do that. I recently saw
double down,
a Day of the Dead remake. It was so cringy. It was so bad. And it would have been much better if it was just called something else, because it wasn't Day of the Dead at all. Call it something else. It's another generic Netflix zombie movie. How about that? See? Problem solved. This really is easy enough to solve. For movie makers and producers and directors, stop reusing titles and IPs and just start creating those scripts with the new characters. You know, Michael Bay could have made a mutant martial arts movie. Didn't have to be turtles. I mean, they didn't even look like the Ninja Turtles anyway. You could have had a rhino, you could have had an elephant guy, you could have had some dude made out of trees. I don't know, like whatever. Mutants. Just mutants, like Mutant League. There's a movie they could have made. But anyway, you could have done a lot of things that didn't require the Ninja Turtles IP, but you could have said, like, here's a movie where there's a bunch of explosions and a bunch of slow-mo scenes and a bunch of loud noise and farting and like all this stuff, and we have these mutants in it that are gross, but you love them and they're funny and they have a bad guy. How hard would that have been? Which brings me to Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog. That movie trailer was so bad they had to rescind the movie. How bad is that? It's like the first time ever that a trailer came out for a movie that got a green light, and it was so poorly received, they were like, JK guys, we're going to completely change the computer-generated image for the entire movie. Now, granted, I applaud their response to a fandom that was like, this is one of the creepiest looking blue things I've ever seen in my life. Fix it. And granted, I wish they would have done that for Sonic and the Secret Rings on the Wii. If they would have just released a trailer showing you how god-awful that game was going to be, maybe they could have gotten a response and fixed it before they released it. Or Mario and Sonic Olympics. But again, I digress. This is a beloved franchise. What are you doing? You're remaking it just to remake it. And you're putting in Jim Carrey, again, for the same reason that you have, what's his name, from that 70s show in Spider-Man 3. Because nostalgia, but not really nostalgia. He's basically, as Dr. Robotnik, acting like Jim Carrey in the 90s. That's not Dr. Robotnik. Not that you need to have Robotnik's personality, but what I didn't need was for you to be like, hey, kids of the 80s, look, we've got character from the 80s with actor from the 90s. You'll love it. Ha ha ha. Like, this is exactly the formula for failure. It's exactly the formula for making no money eventually and destroying and gutting out and removing the soul from a franchise that used to have just pure nostalgia attached to it. So for all of you, again, who are with me, you love your old video games, you love your old movies, you love your old TV shows, stop putting your money into these things. You will be disappointed, A, because you will, and B, you're just rewarding bad behavior. That's really all there is to it. You are rewarding poor behavior by allowing these companies, these producers, these money-hungry directors to create garbage using the name of something that you used to love and then just crapping all over it by making some kind of bastardized version of a movie that you can't recognize from the original. Is that what you want? Do you want ants? Because that's how you get ants. Just stop putting your money into it. Reward movie series like Toy Story. Toy Story 4 was true to the rest of the Toy Story movies. It's perfect. It's fine. If they come out with another Monsters, Inc. movie, I trust that IP. I trust DreamWorks. If they came out with another Shrek, Shrek is love, Shrek is life, watch yourself, but watch that movie. But will I watch another Marvel Universe movie in the theaters? Probably not. I mean, probably I will watch it later when it comes out on some kind of digital media that I cannot pay for. I mean, yeah, Infinity War ended, and it was okay, and it ended in a way that I expected it to, and that's fine. But that franchise is no longer the comic books that I remember. It's now something else. It's a normie version of the comic books. So what I find myself doing is going back and reading my old comic books. And that's bad. Watching the old X-Men cartoon, why am I still doing that? Why haven't we created something better? Days of Future Past was good, but they kind of ruined it again. It's not my favorite. I didn't love what they did with Apocalypse. And that's what I'm saying is if we just stop giving them money for their games, for their movies, and we start putting some money into people who take risks, movies and games that take risks to do something new, maybe we'll get a new golden age of movies and television and video games and books like we used to have not even that long ago. But that's just my 2 cents. Again, not political, philosophical, but financial, and it's up to us as people who actually have money and who have responsibilities to spend those 2 hours that we have every 3 weeks on something that's worth it and not something that they just slapped Star Wars on and then gave us one of the worst things that they could have done with such an amazing franchise, all in the name of those sweet, sweet dollar units. But anyway, comment below. If you're watching this later on, feel free, email me, defeatedbydeliciousfruitpies@gmail.com. I'm happy to hear what your thoughts are. Comment, again, in the video. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But I really feel like this has kind of been coming, and I needed to say something about it. There's solutions. Watch Stranger Things. It's great. Season 2 sucks. Season 3 is great. Just get through it. It's fine. But get into new IPs. Stop trying to continue to feed these vultures who are picking at the corpses of your old favorite nostalgic pieces of art. This is NEDTJ from DBDFP signing off with Dr. Ocelotopus. See you guys.
Defeated.